I don't have belonging except when I'm with certain people. What the postmodernists say is that this is more and more the condition of humanity. That even people who have not left their homeland at all, say the south of the United States, increasingly feel that they don't have a territorialized identity. That's one of the things that's happened, is that identity has been pulled away from territory. So, in the way in which people think about identity, we say that it's a paradox. On the one hand, there's a unique identity. Every one of us not only has unique DNA, even identical twins don't have identical fingerprints. We have, at a certain biological level, there's a uniqueness. But from the moment of the birth of that DNA uniqueness, of that biological uniqueness, what we are invited to do, what we are forced to do in a sense, when we're infants, is that identities are projected upon us. Feminists say, and they're entirely right, that one of the very first questions asked of a newborn infant is, boy or girl? And the moment you hear boy or girl, without anyone, neither the parents nor, of course, the infant knowing it, a whole set of projections and narratives and identities are directed towards that infant. It is essentially told to grow up to live according to a narrative of identity. I once had a homosexual acquaintance say to me, I realized only when I was about 30, and my parents realized, no, I was never going to marry. This was the days before homosexuals married. He said, when I was born, one of the many things they did was project on me a narrative. He's going to go to college, and then he's going to get married and give us grandchildren. He said, that identity was never something I chose. It's simply projected upon me. A large part of identity is a projection. You will be like this. You will do these things. You will, if you'll allow me to use a colloquialism, you will learn to talk the talk and walk the walk of a particular series of identities. How to be a man or a woman, how to be an Armenian, how to belong to your class, etc., etc. You can go down the checklist. And there are people who are very willing to do this. There's a guy in Armenia who 10, 12 years ago wrote a pamphlet. I wish I had it, but I couldn't find it. It was about Ov Haye, who is an Armenian. He was going to tell you. He proceeded to tell you what you need to be and do to be an Armenian. If there's anything I want to convey to you today, it's that, in my view, never at any time in history have there been so many options, so many ways of having and living out an Armenian identity. Think of how punitive the situation was if you were born an Armenian peasant somewhere in Sasun 200 years ago. Your family, local, very narrow, the furthest distance they traveled was Mush, Bitlis, or Dikranagerd. Your family was patriarchal. It told you how to behave. The Kurdish Agha told you how to behave. The Ottoman state told you how to behave. The Armenian church told you how to behave. There were models, and you had to live according to them. And the system was very punitive. Harder even on women than on men, but really punitive for everyone. You had to walk a very tight line. The script of identity that you had to perform was preset. What has happened, for a set of reasons that we don't need to go into in a brief conversation, is that the number of scripts which you can perform and still be an Armenian has increased. Now, we're not all happy with all of the scripts by any means. I don't mean to say that I am or you should necessarily be. But if there's anything you want to take away from this talk, it's this notion that your Armenian identity is really now able to be a set of identifications. You can say, I identify as that kind of Armenian. I identify with that way of doing Armenian things. This change in options is both a richness, a fortune for us, and at the same time it's a cause of great difficulties, because collective action becomes harder and harder when the number of identity scripts that people perform just keeps on increasing. And people try to write their own scripts. They try to create their own patterns. There is no easy way out of it. Probably next to memory, the thing that most matters to people who do scholarship, who do research on identity, is the question of difference and similarity. I think this is obvious, but it needs to be said. You never are just what you are. Whether you know it or not, you establish your own identity by saying, I'm not them. As my old nanny Takui Khatun said, Menk dajik chenk. To be an Armenian is not to be a Muslim, it's to be an Armenian Christian, fundamental for her. So when you affirm yourself, you simultaneously declare your similarity to a group and your difference from another. Anthropologists spend a lot of time studying where the boundaries are, where consciously or unconsciously we say, here I stop being part of this group, I move into another, or here I draw the line, I don't want to be like them, I want to be part of this group and like this group. Along with memory and with difference, the thing that's a kind of fundamental identity process is, as I said before, that we start unique, but we have this desire that social psychologists have studied a great deal to be part of social groups. There's a kind of paradox, isn't there? Look at the kids who are online on Facebook trying to curate a very unique identity, right? That this is a sort of cool identity that I carefully cultivate so it shows how special I am. But part of the reason they're cultivating that very unique identity is so they can be part of the group they want to be in. And that's the nature of identity. It's simultaneously deeply unique and individual. We really are, each of us, unique, as I said, from DNA, fingerprints on up. And one of the built-in elements of humanity is that we want to belong to groups. Whether you're gangbangers or whatever, you want to belong to groups. There is virtually no human being who is truly a hermit, or when there are, they are the exceptions that